Welcome to part 2 of my tutorial on how to use CSS to create some awesome hover effects. Um, so I'm going to be showing you some more basic strategies for styling and how to create the actual movement part of these hover effects. Now, so in the last video, you can see we had created a little tile from blog articles in our blog listings here. And so we've used absolute and relative positioning and some other properties to style this how we want. And this is how we want it to look when it's in a state of hover. But that's not how we want it to stay. So, but before I get into how to make it move, actually move, do the movement part, I want to take you over to my CSS. And so in the CSS, you can see I've got a section for the blog index styles specifically set up. And I have tried as best as I could to combine selectors that have shared properties. So all of these selectors all shared the position absolute, so I put them all together. And then as I went through and took my properties that I was showing you in the DevTools in the last episode, I tried to group them together so that positioning properties are together, font properties are together, and sizing and that sort of thing are together as well. And one important property I forgot to mention in the last episode was this box sizing, using box size and border box. And actually, I could probably add this to all of them so that it helps things to behave a little more predictably. So instead of calculating the size of the containing box for that element using the width plus the padding plus the border, it takes the padding out of the total width instead. And so it just behaves a little more predictably. So without this box right here would actually be spilling out because it'd be 100% of this length plus this little bit here plus that extra little bit there. So that's not what we want. We just want this part. So my padding is being taken out of there instead. All right, and so now let's get to do some animation. So I'm going to go back to my DevTools, and initially when this is seen, we want this and this to be hidden. And the way we're going to hide that is using those positioning properties that we learned about earlier. But before I hide them, I'm going to save what I did. So I want this guy, that last paragraph. We can use that same selector. And we'll set it up now. I want this guy to slide out when the article is hovered over. So I'm going to add a state of hover to my selector. So this is saying that the last paragraph, or any paragraph that's the last child, that is a child of an article in a state of hover, that is the child of a blog, will have these styles applied to it. And the style in question for this particular time is the left property. So let me copy that. At the end of this, I want this left property to be free rem, and I could do other properties as well, but let's keep it simple for now. So now comes the part where I need to hide it. So to hide this, I'm going to use that left property again. There you are. So I can set this to be bigger than the box. So it's pushing it from the left, bigger than the box, and pushing it right out of the screen. 105%. So when I do that, actually I can kind of animate it to show you. So if I add more and more and more and more, eventually it could be hidden. And it's only hiding, it's not able to be seen over here because I'm hiding anything that flows outside of my article. So there's my article that's highlighted in blue. Everything outside of this box, um, any of these things inside here that go outside of the box are going to be hidden because of the overflow property that I've set here. So by default, I'm going to want this guy to be hidden. So I'm going to set the left, and I like to actually give it a little bit of extra room just because things happen, you know. Life is tough sometimes. So I'm going to set this to 105%. That's even bigger than the width of the box. And save on my preprocessor. Go to work compiling things. And back up here. And so when I do this time, it should be hidden. Now it's hidden, you don't see it anymore, but when I hover over that article, it reappears. Nice. Now you don't see me, now you do. Alright. And I can do the same thing for this guy right here, but I'm going to wait for a second because this is kind of sudden. And so to make this smoother, I can add another property called the transition property. So if I add a transition property, let's say to, actually I'm going to use my dev tools here to keep this in a state of hover. So if I use that, and not my date, I want my last child right here, I can animate this using the transition property. So I'm going to make this transition, and so now I need to select the property here that I want to animate. I want to animate the left, so the motion from it changing from left to left, from one left offset to another left offset. And then I'm going to set a time over which I want this to occur. So I'm going to go with half a second. You could also write this in milliseconds using just a number. I don't know why, I just like seconds. It just seems more comfortable to me. Some people like the granular control. And then I can also adjust the way that it's going to animate. So I could have it just in a straight linear fashion where it goes just evenly all the way across 5 seconds, moving from an offset of 105% to an offset of 3 rem. I can, by default, it's set to ease. I could also, that means that it kind of starts a little slow and speeds up as it goes, kind of an exponential curve. I could also have it ease out, ease in. I have a lot of options here. You can find more options by looking up the transition property on the Mozilla Developer Network. So I'm going to just leave that at the default. And so when I apply the transition property, it's going to animate. So watch what happens this time when I do it. It goes on, it goes off. Pretty slick. And so let's add that to our actual CSS here. So I've already changed my left property, and I'm adding that transition property. And like we said, applying it to the left over the course of half a second, and changing that timing can really change the feel that you're going for. I want something just kind of soft and nice, so I'm going a little slower. If I wanted to make it a little more exciting, I can speed it up by shortening that time span. So let's Let's go back here. So let's say I wanted it to go really fast. I could set this to, oops, try that again, 0.1 second. And then you can see the difference. Oops. This is, and then that really is too fast to really even see it. So I don't recommend that. I'm going to just leave it as is, save it. When we refresh, it should be working. Oh, see now when it goes here, you notice when I hover over it, it nicely transitions, but then when I drop, it goes off. And that's because I need to add a transition property to another selector too. I want it to transition back to this left, like so. And I could do like I did up here and kind of combine some things, and I'll probably do that a little later. But for now, let's save that. Make sure everything works as expected. And then, there we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this guy right here, except for this guy, I want him to come in from the opposite direction. So I'm going to need to animate or add the transition property to the right instead. So let's go back to date, bottom. All right, actually, you know what? Now that I'm trying to look at it, I've got a couple options here. So this has got only one property set right here, the bottom property that's making it go right here. So it's in its default position. So I can animate it if I want to go up from the bottom, but I'm actually going to add an extra property to push it off the edge of the page. And let's just go left, and we'll add a negative value to left 100%. And that takes it completely off the page again. If I wanted to, I could also do it using the right property. Actually, maybe that's a better way to do it. So let me change that to right. And so I've added a right property, and so it's pushed it off the page. And I'm going to kind of do like I did before. I want to take my date. So let's get a new fresh start with my date, and at the end, the date is going to have the right property unset. So let's just do right unset. But to start off with, let's have the right positioned so that it is 105% off the page. Oops, and you know what? I forgot. Just like I did here, I also want to do the same thing here. I only want this to be unset when this goes in a state of hover. So let's copy this. And actually, on second thought, I've changed my mind. I'm actually going to go left and put this as a negative value so that I can set the left to 0. This is a more surefire way. So I'm not 100% sure that that unset would work. So when I save this, should get a similar result, and these should kind of come together as I go through. And you can see it's appearing, but again, just like with this one, I want this to have a smooth transition. So I'm going to go back here, and actually I can, if I do this, I can use this property, the same transition on all of those, so left. But just for the sake of showing you kind of quickly, I'm going to just add it here. And you can see it's got a nice little hover effect. And I may need to slow down the timing on this one just a little bit, because you can see this one has a lot longer distance to travel. So let's change that to 75 and see how that looks. Right now my computer is running under duress with all the stuff. And I can play with this. That's a little too long of a delay. I can play with this to get the timing right. But you see the basic parts that are going to give me that finished result. And it's still a little bit off. And this is one of those reasons why a lot of people like milliseconds, because it gives you a little more fine-grained control. So I can play with the timing a little bit, but I won't bore you doing that. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and make sure you keep on checking back for more updates to the site. I'm going to be chronicling how I changed the site to from a static site to a custom WordPress theme, and doing more videos, how-to videos like this along the way. So make sure you keep on checking out my blog at walkerportfolio.com/blog. And thanks for watching. Bye.